Not a single Western air defense system has demonstrated such high effectiveness in real combat operations in Ukraine or in the Middle East as Russian air defense systems have. You may ask, then why didn't they work for Maduro? I will answer that question immediately. The basis of Venezuela's airspace control was Chinese radars of various classes and Chinese automated combat control systems for air defense groupings. Therefore, when the Americans implemented their scenario to seize Maduro, the first thing they did was shut down Venezuela's power stations with hacking attacks. Caracas and other major cities were attacked and were left without electricity at the moment of the strike. Second, they disabled the Chinese airspace control radars, both through electronic warfare and through cyber operations, and therefore carried out the operation with impunity. I would like to note that, of course, there are certain conclusions that every country must draw from this, but today, no state can feel secure without an effective air and missile defense system. That is precisely why NATO has started talking about creating a drone wall, because they understand that if a military conflict between Russia and NATO were to occur, and we do not need such a conflict, Western politicians in Europe say they are preparing for war with us, yet at the same time they admit they cannot close their own airspace. Hence these hyper projects like the drone wall. Trump has another such project, the Golden Dome. He wants to cover North America with something similar to what Ronald Reagan wanted to build, a Strategic Defense Initiative 2.0, now under Donald Trump. But from a technical standpoint, the U.S. defense industry is not yet capable of creating orbital platforms in space with weapons based on new physical principles, combat lasers or beam weapons, to intercept incoming warheads of intercontinental missiles striking the United States. Therefore, over the next 25 to 30 years, neither Trump nor subsequent American presidents will be able to create a global system that ensures invulnerability of the United States to ballistic missile strikes. That is a task for the next technological paradigm, maybe in 25, 30, perhaps 40 years, something may appear. But for now, these are simply gigantic projects with gigantic budget allocations. And the main beneficiaries, of course, are major corporations like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and other giants of the American defense industry, who will absorb and use this money for themselves. But they will not be able to create invulnerability and ensure complete security for the United States. The current level of science and technology does not allow it.
I would like to clarify a bit regarding Venezuela, because you mentioned Chinese radar systems. But as I understand it, they also had S-300s, they had Buk systems and Panzer. What went wrong? Was it a problem of building an integrated system, or of part of the system being taken out? Why, in the end, as you emphasized, was the system unable to stop the Americans?
First and foremost, the foundation is airspace control. Airspace control is provided by radars, and the United States managed to disable the Chinese radars. They can be taken out first through electronic suppression. That is the first method. Second, if miniature jamming transmitters are planted by agents in close proximity to where those radars are located, and apparently the CIA had an effective agent network in Venezuela. The other element is the combat control system. An air defense system operates within a single, unified combat command and control loop. Therefore, at the Venezuelan Air Defense Command Post, as we can imagine, first, the power was shut off. When they switched to backup power generators, the radars could no longer see anything. They were suppressed, jammed, saturated with interference. And secondly, as a result of a cyber operation that was apparently conducted by the U.S. National Security Agency, operating within the Pentagon structure, false commands and orders were injected. As a result, Venezuela was unable to employ its air defense effectively, and there was clearly also the factor of surprise, plus disinformation. The Americans evidently managed to mislead the top leadership or part of the general staff, who simply did not see or understand what was happening. And it was precisely within this window of opportunity, somewhere from 50 minutes to an hour and a half, that the American Delta carried out the operation to seize Maduro. Because everything was shut down, there was chaos. Airspace surveillance assets were not functioning. No one understood what was happening. And as a consequence, no decisions were made to destroy or engage those same American helicopters that were carrying out the seizure operation. So this was a well-prepared, comprehensive operation. But I repeat once again, it was, of course, a blow first and foremost to China's reputation, because Trump authorized the operation to seize Maduro literally an hour after a high-ranking representative of Xi Jinping's, who had flown to meet Maduro, given him all the guarantees, and then flown back to Beijing, departed from Caracas. And then, literally as soon as he left Venezuelan airspace, Trump authorized the operation. And agents, that is the key factor. The CIA clearly had agents in the highest military and political circles of Venezuela. An agent network is a terrifying thing. If it is not uncovered, it works against the leader of the state. And in this sense, of course, this was also a risk that should have been anticipated. So this was the result of a complex set of causes. And first of all, inefficiency, poor planning, and a failure, again, by China's partners who helped Venezuela build its radar system to take into account the risks and threats they might face. This was a well-planned operation, and it was unprecedentedly successful. And for Trump, the main thing now is to monetize this operation, to take control of Venezuelan oil, force the politicians remaining in Caracas to be loyal to the United States, to take U.S. interests into account, and to bring major American oil corporations back into Venezuela, to return part of the American property in the oil sector that had been seized by the Venezuelan state, nationalized, taken into state ownership. In other words, Trump wants to maximize the financial capitalization of this operation. It was successful. That must be acknowledged. And everyone is studying it today. But it is also a reason for any country, including Russia, to draw conclusions from it. And, of course, it is a challenge for China. As we can see, after the Venezuelan operation succeeded, large-scale purges are now being carried out in China's top military leadership. And Xi Jinping carrying out these purges is obviously, to some extent, targeting that part of the Chinese general staff that was responsible for Venezuela's air defense, for consulting the Venezuelan leadership. Their dismissal is also the price for America's success in Venezuela. And Comrade Xi, conducting unprecedentedly large-scale purges at the very top level of China's military leadership, is also reacting to America's success in Venezuela and to the failure, the lack of success, of Chinese radars and Chinese air defense.